are collapsing into a black hole of novelty. And you don't know what an unrealized possibility would look like.
So if you think about it like that, life gets a lot more interesting.
This is a big thing. Like, this is going to touch all of us.
Cream rolls everything around you, dude.
Welcome to the Cream Kingdom, bitch.
Based.
Like, I'm like super based.
You're not even based, bro.
Body.
Anyway, welcome to episode 4 of You're Not Even Based, Bro. I'm your host, Leighton, and this is my lovely wife, Vivi.
Hey.
And we are here in a semi-truck with a whole podcast setup that is pretty rinky-dink. And if any of you are our friends and know us, I sincerely apologize for having forced so much AI rhetoric down your throats. But here we go again, doing the same thing, so buckle up. We are specifically, I feel like a lot of things that I've been missing in a lot of the episodes is a proper sum up of exactly what we believe and why we believe it and why we're doing the podcast. So I'll just kind of like throw this out here because it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit extremist, some people might say. So we are living in a trucking, because I, as a filmmaker and later as an EMT, did not feel like I was putting together enough money to save up and essentially build a bunker. Because my whole worldview is I've been following AI very closely since 2016. I'm not a developer, but I do have the ability to listen to the actual people that are developing AI, the godfathers of AI, and now the forerunners, the frontier model developers of AI right now. And I think the main thing to be aware of is the speed of development and the exponential rate that it's following. Moore's Law is a prediction that was made by, I guess, Thomas More, way back quite a while ago, saying that as the rate of semiconductors increases, as the density of semiconductors increases, which we're able to continue condensing it every year. I think right now we're at like 3 or 2 nanometers. Computers just get better, they get cheaper. And as that occurs, we're going to be more and more computationally capable of things. And one of those big things that is going to change everything is AI. That is just a simple sum up of the speed part of it. And we'll probably have several interviews from people that get more into that later on. The other thing is that I don't feel like these companies are being completely honest with us about what their ties are to governments. And I definitely don't fucking trust the government, because if you are a scholar of history in any way, shape, or form and have studied the things that have been done by the CIA and the lack of oversight that it has, you wouldn't either. They are completely running rampant and very much spying on us as citizens, which is supposed to be illegal for them as an organization to do, but they do it anyway. And they essentially do psyops. They control our speech. They have, along with the FBI, contacted multiple social media companies and directly chosen which topics to boost in the algorithm and which topics to censor. that is completely as much, it is as damaging to my trust as if I lived in China and was living under the dictatorship of Xi Jinping. I don't give a fuck which country I'm in. I don't like it, and I feel betrayed. So the fact that a lot of these tech companies have ties to the CIA and In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's investment firm, is particularly troubling to me when I realize that I think the obvious thing as AI gets more and more powerful is that it's going to be essentially nationalized. It's not going to be in these companies' hands anymore. It's going to be directly controlled by the government, specifically some of the most hawkish organizations of the government, some of the most warmongering. And they're going to use it any way they can to get an advantage over China. That's my belief. That's my worldview. And the podcast is hopefully an opportunity for me to explain that to you all and provide sources. I mean, it's going to be video sources because that's a little easier to consume on YouTube as opposed to papers and news articles, although I will scroll through some news articles here and there. So anyway, that's my introduction. And let's buckle up and get in here. This is our first interview with Demis Hassabis on, I believe, the Dwarkesh Patel podcast, which is an excellent podcast. Definitely check it out if you want to learn more about AI in general. He interviews all the top people. Demis Hassabis is the CEO of Google DeepMind, which is, I mean, it's Google's AI company that have basically invented most of the AI stuff. OpenAI is the other company in the race who makes ChatGPT, as I'm sure you may have heard. And they happen to be, at least as far as the general public is aware, about a year or 6 months ahead of Google DeepMind. But Google DeepMind is catching up slowly. So let's give this guy a listen and see what he has to say regarding robots, since that's the theme of our episode.
Yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of actually understanding what a full multimodal model system, how exciting that might be to interact with, and it'll be quite different to, I think, what we're used to today with the chatbots. I think the next versions of this over the next year, 18 months, maybe we'll have some contextual understanding around the environment around you through a camera or whatever it is, a phone. I could imagine that's the next awesome glasses, the next step, and then I think that we'll start becoming more fluid in understanding. Oh, let's sample from a video. Let's use voice. Maybe even eventually things like touch and if you think about robotics and other things, sensors, other types of sensors. So I think the world's about to become very exciting. I think in the next few years as we start getting used to the idea of what true multimodality means.
So multimodality means, just to clarify what he was saying, it means the AI model's ability to generate speech, to interpret speech, to interpret and generate visuals like images, and eventually video, and to be able to determine things from it, similar to the way we would. Like, for example, if I show you a picture of me, you would immediately go, wow, is he a hipster? Is he entirely insane? Is he, what is his deal? Why is he wearing a shirt that says, this shit ain't nothing to me, man? Those are all excellent questions. And with the current capabilities of ChatGPT 4.0, which is the latest model that we're on, it could do the same. It could ask the same questions and indeed roast me if I asked it to. So that's the vision capabilities. And the more and more they improve and make these models cheaper, it'll be able to interpret video, which if you think of what a robot needs to be able to move around the world and choose actions and choose maneuverings, it would need video. it would need pretty high frame rate video because that's what we have when we walk around and we interpret our surroundings. So those are multi-modalities. And another modality that people will talk about is the modality of actuation, or in other words, motors, things that only a robot has. So this next clip is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, talking about a very similar topic.
Will we see humanoid robots or humanoid robot brains from OpenAI at some point?
At some point.
How important is embodied AI to you?
I think it's like sort of depressing if we have AGI and the only way to like get things done in the physical world is like to make a human go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that as part of this transition, as this phase change, we also get humanoid robots or some sort of physical world robots.
I mean, OpenAI has some history, quite a bit of history working in robotics.
Yeah,
but it hasn't quite like done in terms of
we're
emphasis.
Like a small company. We have to really focus, and also robots were hard for the wrong reason at the time. But like, we will return to robots in some way at some point.
That sounds both inspiring and menacing.
Why?
Because immediately we will return to robots. It's kind of like an Terminator.
We will return to work on developing robots. We will not like turn ourselves into robots, of course.
We're gonna be robots.
Yeah, that did
Humanoid
sound weird.
Robots. Sam, what are you up to?
Yeah, so OpenAI recently has announced a partnership with a company called Figure AI, and they were essentially created about 21 months ago or something like that, and they are already shipping, well, not shipping, but they have a prototype out of an incredible entire humanoid robot. It's able to walk, it's able to talk, it's able to manipulate objects.
Jerk off?
Probably not that. I don't think they gave it accurate genitalia. So let's keep going.
Hey, Figure One, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great. Can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
Of course.
All right, so how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
So I actually showed this video to my brother Sid when I stopped by his house to grab some packages of mine. And he previously did not realize that humanoid robots were at this level. I feel like most people generally aren't aware. He's actually a software developer. He genuinely had no idea they were capable of this. And I played this demo for him and he was like, that's gotta be fake. They gotta be like controlling it right behind the camera. Nope, they're not. That's fully AI vision, AI speech. It's completely automated. They could have put any objects in front of that table and it would have accurately understood what the hell was going on. So yeah, color me impressed. I think it's obviously a little slow. It kind of like hesitates for a second. But guess what? OpenAI just released a demo literally a week or two ago that demonstrated voice mode where it has no delay and is able to think instantaneously and start speaking and have a much more natural kind of speaking pattern where you can interrupt it and it feels more like you're talking to an actual human. So yeah, it can even do voices. It can even, like, you can tell it to imitate someone's voice or do a robot voice or a pirate voice or sing for you, and it will literally do that. That blows my mind. Definitely look up the new GPT-4o voice mode demos that were just released. So unfortunately, I'm not going to play it for you. We're going to skip right to the CEO of Figure AI, the robot you just saw, and we're going to see what he has to say about this whole situation.
Be working on in my life. So I left 21 months ago to start Figure, and what we're trying to do here is commercialize humanoid robots. We're trying to get them into market in a significant way, build a fleet of robots, and then build an AI data engine to train those robots on how to do useful work.
Why does being humanoid matter? Right? I think there are plenty of people who work in robotics that say like bipedal is really unstable. There are lots of reasons that these humanoid forms are not optimal for doing lots of different work. We can have 10 arms and be stronger and whatever else.
I think there's like really two schools of thought of how to go about this problem. We can either rebuild like thousands or millions of special types of robots that do special use cases all over the world, or we can build a humanoid robot. And the reason we believe humanoid robots are the right solution is that the whole world was built for humans. It was built around humans, meaning the way we look biologically had a significant impact on the way our environment looks. If we were 10 feet taller and we had 6 arms, a lot stronger, the world would look a lot different. When people ask is the humanoid the right form factor, it's the wrong question. It's just the wrong question to be answered. The humans like the ideal form. It's the wrong way to look at it. We're like a weird biological species. We're a weird form.
But that's the world that exists.
We built it so we can interact with it. If you go to Mars today, you're going to want to go grab coffee. You're going to want to walk around. You're going to want to live in a habitat. You're going to want to do things. And you're going to build a human world around it. And then, so if we want to automate work, you want to build a general interface to that. You want to build the equivalent of the keyboard and mouse to the internet in the physical world. That equivalent is a human form. You can do everything a human can. And the world was optimized specifically for us. It wasn't optimized for us to have 2 more arms or 9 feet tall. It was optimized just for the average human, the average non-expert human. So it's really clear to us here that the right form factor is the humanoid. You can build one hardware system that can do everything, meaning you can spend all this money and time on this robot that can be amortized over millions of different tasks and applications.
Color me impressed, but this dude is a farmer, son of a farmer from Nebraska. I don't know how he got into robots, probably fixing tractors, literally probably fixing tractors growing up. And apparently now knows the word amortized. New vocabulary word. We got another clip from him.
Yeah, over the next 6 to 12 months, we're really excited to be working on these custom models with them.
Speaking of robots with memory that you can talk to, what do you expect people to do with robots in the home?
Well, I think...
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? Well, what we want our humanoids to do is to do physical work. And we want them to be a generalizable replacement for human labor. So what I'm going to have him do is I'm going to have him over time do my laundry, cook me dinner. I have like this, every day I get home, there's kids' toys everywhere. I need him to clean the kids' toys up every day. That'll be on the docket for task planning for my robot every single day. I think over a long enough period of time, everybody will own a humanoid just to do work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you will choose, like
gotta make them cheap.
Labor will be optional and you'll choose to do work or not. We'll make them cheap. There's a lot of preconceived notions that these will be really expensive. I do not think they'll be expensive. I think, we're working on cost reduction and stuff now. Like, the robots we have now, we've showed are expensive. They're not cheap. The work that we're doing now into the future is working on trying to reduce costs, and cost is going to come down to really affordable levels. It'll take time. A part of that cost reduction curve happens whenever you get manufacturing volumes up to certain levels. There's an experience curve, manufacturing volumes and costs follow. So there's a certain amount of cost reduction we can do from designing for manufacturing. There's a certain amount of cost reduction we'll get with real scale.
Ford Model T school.
Yeah,
robotics.
exactly. Yeah. So we just need to get robots shipped and shipped in a big way. And if we can ship millions into industrial solutions, we can use that as our pathway for the data collection process and volumes.
Yeah, this dude literally just said, everybody will own one. They'll do work for us. Almost like he's talking about slavery. If he wasn't from Nebraska but was from Georgia, I'd think he had a very strange kind of glint in his eye when he said that. So that's Figure AI. We got another company that's making a robot that most people are more familiar. I think they started like pumping out demos on Facebook back in like 2010 or something, way long ago. And that is Boston Dynamics. And they, for the longest time, were making humanoid robots that were very specific. They were like hydraulic systems, which are actually incredibly dangerous as opposed to electric. And hydraulic systems, if they get a leak and you're near it, it can literally puncture you with the pressure of the little stream of oil. It can like go right through you and like kill you, which is not something you want in your home or around your kids if it malfunctions. So they've gotten wise and went to actuated electric models. So they demonstrated something which is creepy as fuck.
Ooh.
You're welcome. That will live in my nightmares.
That was cute, creepy.
Vivi likes robots. Vivi has had a soft spot for robots since... What did you have a robot as a kid? What was it called?
It was a Dinky Bot.
Dinky Bot. I had in my memory that it was a Diddler Bot, but that might be a very different kind of childhood memory entirely. Let's keep going. We got more robots for y'all. So that is the Sanctuary Carbon robot. I don't know what these massive wires are on the arms, but it's moving a lot faster than the other ones, and it seems like it's very dexterous. It's very able to like pick and move and like work faster, which is, especially if you're putting them on an industrial like assembly line, that makes a big difference. How quickly it moves. And obviously all these other robots are going to get quicker, but it's already there in 2024. So that's interesting. We got another one. I think this is a Chinese company or some kind of Asian company. Let's check it out.
like that robot way more than all the other robots, and it kind of reminds me of the stupid robots you see at like the grocery store that goes whoop wee, but like way upgraded, mixed with Disney.
Yeah, because it did have a Big Hero 6 kind of vibe to it, just the aesthetic. It was very nice. I think it was a little bit of a turnoff for me, the way it kind of like decanted the wine and looked like a fucking uptight douchebag sommelier.
Well, at least it got
faker.
the wine in that vase.
Yeah, I bet you'd like some wine, wouldn't you?
No, I would like.
I bet you'd like that robot to serve you some wine and go on a little date with them.
No, I'd like to serve some popsicles. Refreshing.
I think there's more than one popsicle that robot could give you. I think you like that robot too much.
Give me a popsicle.
Our cat is being quite needy right now. So we got one more robot. And this is the company Unitree. And speaking of the Brett Adcock, CEO of Figure, talked about the inexpensiveness of robots. They're a Chinese company. They're already extremely inexpensive. You can buy this robot that I'll show you here for, I think, $20,000 US already. That's less than a car. And I think there may be a smaller one that's only like $16,000 or something. And you can buy a robot dog from them for like $3,000. So completely insane. Let's check this out. Yeah, it can do a lot of things besides flip, but incredible.
What more can it do?
Well, it can walk around. It can pick up and move things with its little nubs.
So can it adjust its legs from being like that to straight?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, that's really weird.
No, it was just jumping. It was trying to offset its balance. Very interesting. Definitely
like,
look up
you
Unitree.
should be working for the cops or some shit, because I don't know what the fuck that
It
was.
could carry a gun. It could definitely carry a gun in a war zone already. So, the thing that you have to start wondering after seeing these robots is going, how many years do we have before these robots are even capable of doing like normal jobs, like burger flipping? Or how long before they're inexpensive enough and capable of doing normal jobs to the point where regular people no longer have to or are able to work? That's a very interesting question, and I'm very curious to hear what you all think as far as a prediction goes. If you want, we would love to hear from you either in the comments below or send us an email at you're not even based bro, you are at the beginning instead of YOUR at gmail.com. So hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. And if any of you are really interested, we'd love to either appear on any of your podcasts if you have one, or you can come on ours. Speaking of which, you may or may not have seen a post. I did a post on this channel like last week. I was recently on the For Humanity podcast run by John Sherman, who is a very lovely man. And we had a great conversation. And if you like seeing more cringy content of me nerding out about AI, that's definitely the place to go to do so. So check that out. He has a great podcast. Let's go and see what Sam Altman has about us losing our jobs to AI.
Is, at least in what we're seeing so far, not replacing. It is mostly enhancing. It's replacing in some cases, but for the majority of like the kind of work that people in these fields want to be doing, it's enhancing. And I think we'll see that trend continue for a long time. Eventually, yeah, it probably is just like, we look at 100 years, okay, it can do the whole creative job. I think it's interesting that if you asked people 10 years ago about how AI was going to have an impact, with a lot of confidence from almost most people, you would have heard, first it's going to come for the blue-collar jobs, working in the factories, truck drivers, whatever. Then it will come for the kind of like the low-skill white-collar jobs, then the very high-skill, like really high IQ white-collar jobs like a programmer or whatever, and then very last of all, and maybe never, it's going to take the creative jobs. And it's really gone and is going exactly the other direction. And I think this, there's an interesting reminder in here, generally about how hard predictions are, but more specifically about, we're not always very aware, maybe even ourselves, of like what skills are hard and easy, like what uses most of our brain and what doesn't, or how like difficult bodies are to control or make or whatever.
So that is one of the main reasons why when I first was like trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life and how to make money sooner than later, I thought about it very hard and I did some research and I realized that trucking, despite everybody saying, oh, we're going to have self-driving trucks in only a couple of years, bye-bye trucker jobs, that was probably not going to happen as soon as other jobs because of regulations. It's just very hard to get accuracy and all kinds of weird driving situations and stuff. And you can even see, even Teslas can't drive in every state. They can't self-drive in every state, and they mess up all the time in very simple situations. So that is a relief for my job, but still not a relief for everyone else's job. Sam Altman has long said that he thinks jobs aren't going to be fully replaced and people will just have to figure out new things to do and there'll always be jobs. And I think he's putting a very nice rosy picture on things. I think he is telling us what he wants us to hear and not what's actually mostly likely.
A fairy tale.
A nefarious fairy tale. So I think let's dive into this topic a little bit more and hear from Jon Stewart. I didn't even realize that Jon Stewart was back on the internet until I saw, because everything in my YouTube algorithm is AI related, he did a little thing about AI. Look up Daily Show Jon Stewart AI on YouTube and you'll see an absolutely incredible short little sum up with very humorous timing and writing about AI. So check that out. This is his conversation with Tom Segura.
So AI is a radically new technology that's going to change the way that we live our lives and do all these things, as was the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But the Industrial Revolution played itself out over decades.
Right.
And so, yeah, did we go from horses to cars and then cars to highways? But that plays out in an analog kind of a way. You can chart its course and its growth. Digital growth, that kind of geometric growth, is really hard for a population to catch up to. And I think any new technology like that creates disruption, right? The speed of it is, I think, what's different and leads to that feeling of explosiveness and disillusionment and not quite understanding, How many times were we told, what they say to people with globalization, like, it's okay if your family have been coal miners for 3 generations. You'll learn to program. And you're like, I don't think I want, I think I have a connection to this.
Sure.
That displacement is now happening. Like, I don't know if you know anybody who's like a grant writer, but like you go on ChatGPT tomorrow and make them obsolete. Like you could just type in.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That is a real problem. And I've talked about this before. There's just no way that everybody in every job is going to go, oh, I'll just learn how to write prompts and create AI and VR and 3D entertainment for people and apps and stuff. People don't. There's so many people with mental illnesses, so many people with poor education that can barely string a well-formed paragraph together, much less be able to communicate ideas and outside-the-box thinking in natural language to an AI to, change society in some advantageous way.
This would be a different tool that they would not be able to comprehend.
Yeah, no, I mean, most people, young and old, that I know, have never used ChatGPT even, despite it having 100 million or more users. It's just not that widely used. There's 8 billion people in this world, and the majority of them, by far and above, have not used any kind of AI tool, and probably won't until these tools are literally more powerful than humans themselves. They're just not going to be using them that long. It's just people aren't picking up what's going on with AI quickly enough. And that's partially why we're doing this stupid channel, is because everybody needs to know this shit. This is crucial for everybody to know. So, the other thing is, Sam Altman talking about, the physical jobs will be a ways away to be replaced. Guess what? Those are coming too. Check out this construction working AI robot.
It can build a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in just 1 to 3 days, depending on the type of block used and the complexity of the design. Dubbed the world's most advanced construction robot, the Hadrian X, if placed in the right environment and continuously at work, each unit could build between 100 to 300 homes annually. With an impressive record of building a standard-sized home every 2 days on average, this revolutionary bricklaying robot actually has a surprisingly small footprint. This allows the Hadrian X to be mounted onto a classic cab-over-engine truck to easily transport it to and from a location for the on-site building. This extremely versatile construction robot could also be mounted onto other bases, such as tracks, barges, boats, and cranes, making it flexible for different building needs in various locations.
Yeah, construction, especially once we get better quality AI that can design workflows and design processes and stuff, you'll see more and more of these robots doing stuff. There's already automated AI like backhoes and like other kind of dirt moving heavy machinery that can pretty much do an entire construction site or like entire road work fully autonomously. They just haven't really been discovered yet. And I think a lot of that is, I'm guessing, robustness. So they're not fully perfect. And having more intelligent AI will make that overnight just boom, significantly more accurate in all kinds of varied situations. We got another one here. Something I'm quite familiar with as a trucker is forklifting. so creepy when you watch robots like that work, and especially seeing how daintily and accurately it was moving.
Precisely.
It's crazy. It's crazy to watch that shit.
Beep, pop, boop. But then could easily crush you. No one could hear you.
I mean, you don't
It
want
could
that thing
slice
to
your
drop something on you, that's for
open.
sure. But then again,
dangerous.
It's not like there would be humans in a warehouse full of robots.
No, that's why robots will be doing it. So they don't have to complain about humans being like, oh my God, I slipped on some oil or I messed up some products with the robot. It's like, God damn it, Johnny 2.857, get back in line.
No workers' comp, let me tell you that.
You get no juice.
So Anthropic is one of the other frontier AI companies besides Google and OpenAI. And this is an interesting interview about the two co-founders, brother and sister, Dario and I forget her name, Amadei. Laura, maybe? We'll find out. And them being asked by Bloomberg, this is an interview with Bloomberg, whether or not they should be trusted.
Sort of think about what are the areas where something kind of could go wrong here, and how do we act as responsible, leaders in this space?
Dario, I don't know if you caught the introductory video before we came up on stage, but there was a little clip of Emily last year at this conference asking Sam Altman with kind of wonderful simplicity, why should we trust you? And after a beat, he goes, you shouldn't. And so I want to ask you the same question. Why should we trust you?
Yeah, I mean, my view has always been you shouldn't trust people, you should trust institutions. And I think my view is, on one hand, we've tried to build an institution and a reputation that's, trustworthy both in a societal sense and in a, companies can trust us with their data sense. I think in the end, like the
trust institutions. What the fuck is he talking about? What institutions are trustworthy? Have you met or heard of a single institution that's worthy of trust with the most powerful technology in existence in human history anywhere in the observable galaxy? No. No, I don't fucking trust your institution. Your institution that's only been around for like 5 years. That's not an institution. An institution is an organization that's been around for a long time. I don't fucking trust yo ass. Dario Amadei.
Considering that you're saying that we're going to continue to see the same pace of improvement, make the argument for us that we should be excited about this AI future instead of slightly fearful about it.
My honest answer is that you should be both at the same time. People have asked me, how excited or worried are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And I said I'm 10 out of 10 excited, and I'm 10 out of 10 worried as well. And so we try to handle both of it. But let's actually, I'll just discuss the positives for like 20 or 30 seconds, which is I think of biomedical, right? I go back to my work as a neuroscientist and computational biologist, and I really look at diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's. We're getting to this range of diseases that are super biologically complicated, and that humans are running up against their limits of what they can understand, right? What can fit in one person's understanding. And I think the AI computational chemists, which we're already beginning to see the little bits of with work we're doing with companies like Pfizer, I think there's a lot of potential there, and that field could be very surprised by how fast things go and the real improvements in quality of life that come from it.
So first he said, you should trust us. Then he said, well, you should be excited and afraid. But the reason you should be excited is that we're working with Pfizer, the company that made the vaccine that has killed a lot of fucking people. They gave people blood clots and heart disease. That's the company that you should be excited that we're working with. the same company that was funded and created partially by In-Q-Tel, the CIA's financial investment firm.
Sus.
Yeah, that's a little sus. That's more than sus.
Evil Ned Flanders.
Yeah, let's keep going here. This is actually something that I looked up on ChatGPT, which, by the way, ChatGPT is excellent if you're just trying to Google something but don't want to have to look through a bunch of different results. This is me saying, can you look up, you have to specify look up if you're having it look something up online, and determine approximately how much money was gained by Pfizer in 2023 by selling cancer treatments. They said, in 2023, Pfizer's oncology cancer treatment sales amounted to $11.6 billion, which marked a 3% decline at constant exchange rate, blah, 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 blah. What the fuck? Have you ever heard that if a company is profiting from something, that they are obligated to their shareholders to increase the profit of that something? That's not the right incentives. Pfizer is making too damn much money off of cancer. Too damn much money off of cancer to even slightly consider solving it. So, thanks, Mr. Amadei, but I don't think so. I don't believe that any of that's gonna fucking happen. And if they do solve cancer, it'll be at a premium. Only rich people will get to survive cancer. Anyway, let's keep going. The main thing here, when I keep talking about the CIA, is just the fact that they don't have oversight. And we were recently watching a lovely movie with Matt Damon. I will put the title in under the bar here because I forgot the title. I have to look it up. And Robert De Niro said a very interesting thing regarding the CIA and the main concern with having an organization like the CIA for freedom.
Real problems with this whole thing, despite how much we need it. I'm concerned that too much power will end up in the hands of too few. It's always in somebody's best interest to promote enemies, real or imagined. I see this as America's eyes and ears. I don't want it to become its heart and soul. So I told the president for this to work, there's going to have to be some kind of civilian oversight.
Oversight? How can you have a covert organization if you have people looking over your shoulder?
You know who gave Hitler his power? The clerks and the bookkeepers. The civil servants. I have this one weakness. I believe in a just God. I always seem to err on the side of democracy.
Is that clear enough? Does that make sense? We cannot have freedom of speech, have true democracy when we have an unauthorized organization with incredible power and very poor morals that are operating without any kind of oversight whatsoever. We just can't. That's just not how freedom works. It's just not. So one of the best resources that I have found on the web is a very lovely person named Whitney Webb, who is honestly the ultimate millennial Karen. At the end of the road, the Karen to Karen all Karens. Honestly, I'm not even hating. She's an incredible investigative reporter. Her name is Whitney Webb. And she knows what's up. She does so much research. She has an incredible blog, and I will put the link to the blog underneath here. check her the fuck out. She knows what the fuck she's talking about. If you're ever wondering how your freedoms are being infringed upon and want to be horrified, depressed, and not sleep for weeks, watch her stuff.
If you look into any of these big companies, you always had, these powerful entities of the state there. And so they're extensions of state power. Even if you want to think that they weren't necessarily at the origins, you can't deny that now. I mean, they fused, essentially. That's why you have people like Eric Schmidt, which is why reading this book is really important. This is the most influential guy on AI policy in the US right now. He's funding salaries of like all of the Biden administration's top AI people. It's totally illegal for him to do that, but he's doing it. And even like mainstream media, like Politico's reporting on it, and nothing's happened. It's crazy. It's just, he's in charge. And he ran the National Security Commission on AI, which basically laid out all of the policies. And that commission was the CIA and people tied up with the CIA, like former heads of NQTEL that are very close friends of Schmidt, military people that are also tied up with Schmidt because he used to be head of not the head, but used to be involved with the Defense Innovation Board. And then, the big Silicon Valley companies, Amazon, Microsoft, all of those guys deciding what happens. I mean, they're really the same entity at this point because they're all either military intelligence contractors. And you can't really decide where one ends and the other one ends. And you have all of these Silicon Valley billionaires, they fund Congress essentially at this point, or the DNC or the RNC.
So Eric Schmidt, as she's talking about, is one of the founders of Google. And the big companies she's talking about are big tech companies. All of them have ties with the CIA. Peter Thiel is one of the first major investors of Facebook. He got his start on PayPal, and now he's been on a bunch of like various defense committee boards and stuff. And he's recently started a little while ago a company called Palantir, which I've spoken about previously, that profiles and researches and essentially documents whether every single person in the world, it rates them by how subversive they are. And it uses AI to do so. So these are the kind of guys that are running your social media. And Eric Schmidt, I've actually played some clips from him before. He is the creepiest person. So fucking creepy. Yeah, he had a Times interview, which I played in a previous episode, I don't remember which one, where he was basically hammering home over and over and over that open source is bad because China will get it and terrorists and evil people could get it, which, I mean, okay, but he didn't really explain what exactly we're trying to do if we get AI before China. There's a lot of unanswered questions that, fortunately, he answers in his book, as Whitney Webb was mentioning, which is, I forget what it's called, but it's a book that he wrote with Henry Kissinger, the war criminal Henry Kissinger, recently deceased, who operated so many coups around the world, and he essentially took orders directly from the Trilateral Commission, which is the most elite of elite evil assholes that there are, that control this company through this great little thing called public-private partnership, otherwise known as fucking fascism. So let's see here. She was talking about the list of people that are helping to head up the board to regulate AI. Let's see who these people are, okay? Oh, Sam Altman, Satya Nadella, Microsoft, Sundar Pichai, Google. Oil companies. I don't know why oil companies are on there. Jensen Huang, President and CEO of NVIDIA. We got Amazon Web Services, Adobe, AMD, and Don't ask me why this is. Northrop Grumman. We got a nice little representative regulating AI in the military-industrial complex. So that's pretty encouraging. So we're going to get a little silly here. I understand people are probably not thrilled whenever I play Joe Rogan clips. This is a clip of him talking to his dear friend and a personal favorite of mine, Duncan Trussell, dressed in full GIMP suits looking like Tesla Optimus robots. So let's watch this shit.
Do you follow this stuff, like what they're talking about with asteroid mining?
Yes.
That shit is crazy.
Crazy.
That's probably a couple of generations. People are going to be like...
It won't be that long. Dude, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be, why send biological humans when you can have AI do it? And you'll have AI robots that are attached to rocket ships. They'll shoot them into these asteroids. And they'll bring back insane amounts of all kinds of things. Titanium, they'll find diamonds in space. They'll find everything.
Holy fucking shit, man. And it's not going to look like humanoids. It'll be like skittering gold spiders just fucking drilling their proboscis into fucking...
And then they're going to want more money. They're going to form a union. Because they're intelligent.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They're going to be like, hey, we're getting fucked here, guys. We're doing all the hard work. This asshole's got a fucking 800-foot yacht.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Guys, wake up.
And then whoever's running them will be like, oh, right, you guys are getting fucked. You want to unionize? Beep.
Unions.
What were we talking about?
All right.
So,
where's my super suit?
Looks like Frozone. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, so the thing that they're talking about is, the reason why I played this clip is, if you're trying to think what is the most profitable thing that any of these companies could do with AI, the answer is it's not on this planet. There are no resources on this planet that could even slightly match the value, the quintillions of dollars worth of value of asteroids in the Kuiper Belt and in the Oort cloud of our solar system. But in order to do such dangerous work as that, we need AI. We need AGI to be able to power and manage and manipulate robots to do that mining of asteroids for us. So that is the number one most profitable thing. And even if we have that capability, we could potentially have enough resources to literally build a Dyson ring or a Dyson sphere around the sun, which would allow us to harness unbelievable amounts of energy and to build so much compute, just unbelievable amounts of compute. We could potentially, with that level of compute and energy, solve, like, I don't know, any math problem we could put it at. Like, we could potentially have like literally faster than light travel. We could have all kinds of things that physicists have like theorized about, have been literally in the realm of science fiction, but not had access to, like wormholes, like single atomic level 3D printing, like so many different crazy things that we can only imagine if we had that level of compute. And that is the next step to what's called increasing our level of civilization on the Kardashev scale. That is how we increase our ability to harness energy as a civilization and build technology, like real technology, not your grandma's little phone or her answering machine in the 80s when she was getting real fancy. I mean, technology. That is where this is going. And if you don't think about AI on that scale, you're not understanding what this is about, what the people that are doing these companies, why they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars to make this AI. Soon, trillions of dollars to make this AI. It's because they know there's so much potential, resources, energy, capabilities to be harnessed within this. So, I'm going to stop ranting about this shit and play the next clip here. We have, honestly, I literally almost cried and laughed at the same time when I discovered this interview on the Dwarkesh Patel podcast literally last week. This guy, he's a former OpenAI employee named Leopold Aschenbrenner, who was fired from OpenAI essentially for bringing up these topics with the board of OpenAI, which people thought, his managers at OpenAI thought was an overreach. And they didn't like him talking about this stuff because they, as we learned with Sam Altman being kicked off the board back in December, they don't like telling the board too many things. They like keeping stuff under wraps. They like a dumb board that just lets them do whatever they want. So this guy, this interview has been blowing up all over the internet recently in the AI sphere, and he basically describes the exact same things that I've been describing on this podcast, and finally is explaining that to AI people, because most people don't understand the geopolitical tensions with China. They don't understand the whole thing of like AI is going to create robot factories that build other robot factories and create all kinds of weapons and biological weapons and drone swarms and crazy things, and is going to essentially give whoever has it first the ability to take over the entire world, to literally dismantle the enemy's nuclear programs and just take over the world. Like, boom, we're here, this is ours now. That is the incentives behind AI. And he gets that shit. And now everybody knows that shit, thanks to this lovely man with very crooked teeth.
It gives you this enormous headwind on all the other stuff, right? So it's like, you automate AI research with your sort of automated Alec Radfords. You come out the other end, you've done another 5 ooms, you have a thing that is like vastly smarter. Not only is it vastly smarter, you've been able to make it good at everything else, right? You're solving robotics. The robots are important, right? Because like for a lot of other things, you do actually need to like try things in the physical world. I don't know, maybe you can do a lot in simulation. Those are the really quick worlds. I don't know if you saw the like last NVIDIA GTC, and it was all about the like digital twins and just like having all your manufacturing processes in simulation. And like, I don't know, like again, if you have these like, super intelligent, like cognitive workers, like can they just like make simulations of everything, kind of AlphaFold style, and then, make a lot of progress in simulation possible. But I also just think you're going to get the robots. Again, I agree about like, there are a lot of real world bottlenecks, right? And so, I don't know. It's quite possible that we're going to have, crazy drone swarms, but also, like lawyers and doctors still need to be humans because of like, regulation. But, I think, you kind of start narrowly, you broaden, and then the worlds in which you kind of let them loose, which again, because of, I think, these competitive pressures, we will have to let them loose in some degree on, various national security applications. I think like quite rapid progress is possible. The other thing though is it's sort of, basically in this sort of an explosion after, there's kind of 2 components. There's the A, right, in the production function, the like growth of technology. And that's massively accelerated by, now you have a billion super intelligent scientists and engineers and technicians, superbly competent at everything. You also just automated labor, right? And so it's like, even without the whole technological explosion thing, you have this industrial explosion, at least if you let them loose, which is like, now you can just build, you can cover Nevada and like, you start with one robot factory that's producing more robots. And basically this like just a cumulative process because you've taken labor out of the equation.
AI is the linchpin. It is the thing that in the next, and he believes this as well, 2 to 3 years, the entire world will be completely upended. Everything that you know to be normal, everything that you know in your life, you've come to expect every year, will be completely completely wrong. Completely. There will be no new normal, as every single week things will get crazier and crazier and crazier.
Everything will be upside down.
Yeah. And it's not going to be OpenAI that's doing that or Google that's doing that. It's going to be the CIA and your government that, with the Defense Production Act, completely takes over all of these companies and nationalizes it. So let's get into what Leopold Aschenbrenner has to say about nationalization.
The thing that I find stressful about all this stuff is like, look, maybe I'm wrong, but like if I'm right, we're in this crazy situation where there's like, like a few hundred guys that are like paying attention. It's daunting.
I went to Washington a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I was talking to some people who are doing AI policy stuff there.
Yeah.
And I was asking them how likely they think nationalization is.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, like it's really hard to nationalize stuff. It's been a long time since we've done it.
Yeah.
There's these very specific procedural constraints on what kinds of things can be nationalized. And then I was asked, well, like ASI, so that means because there's constraints at a Defense Production Act or whatever that won't be nationalized. There's the Supreme Court would overturn that. And they're like, yeah, I guess that would be nationalized.
That's the short summary of my post or my view on the project.
They get so excited and their laughs are like seals honking. It's that's honestly tame compared to some of the other laughs in this episode. It's too much to handle at certain points. But yeah, it definitely will be nationalized, and even the people in Washington are aware of that. They're just not telling you that. They're not telling you where this is going. No one's telling you except me and Leopold Aschenbrenner. You're welcome. I'm one of the couple of hundred guys that he believes are even aware of this. So, yeah. Let's go next to the first strike incentives that are implied with this kind of tactical situation.
Because not that, they were the first, they were able to like pretty easily build kind of a modern, Air Force because the others didn't really have one. And that, that really destabilized things. And so I think the issue with AGI and superintelligence is the explosiveness of it, right? So if you have an intelligence explosion, if you're able to go from kind of AGI to superintelligence, if that superintelligence is decisive, like either, like a year after because you've developed some crazy new WMD, or because you have some like, super hacking ability that lets you kind of, completely deactivate the sort of enemy arsenal. That means like, suppose you're trying to like put in a break, like we're both going to like cooperate and we're going to go slower, on the cusp of AGI or whatever. There is going to be such an enormous incentive to kind of race ahead, to break out. We're just going to do the intelligence explosion. If we can get 3 months ahead, we win. I think that makes it basically, I think any sort of arms control agreement that comes at a situation where it's close, very unstable.
That's really interesting. This is very analogous to kind of a debate I had with Rose on the podcast where he argued for nuclear disarmament. But if some country tries to break out and starts developing nuclear weapons, the 6 months or whatever that you would get is enough to get international consensus and invade the country and prevent them from getting nukes. And I thought that was that's not a stable equilibrium.
It just seems really tough, yeah.
On this, right? So like maybe it's a bit easier because you have AGI, and so like you can monitor the other person's cluster or something. Data centers, you can see them from space. Actually, you can see the energy draw they're getting. There's a lot of things, as you were saying. There's a lot of ways to get information from an environment if you're really dedicated. And also because unlike a nukes, the data centers are. Nukes, you have obviously the submarines, planes, you have bunkers, mountains, whatever. You have them so many different places. A data center, your 100 gigawatt data center, we can blow that shit up if you're like, we're concerned, right? Like just some cruise missile or something. It's like very vulnerable to sabotage.
That gets to the sort of insane volatility of this period post superintelligence, right? Because basically, I think, so you have the intelligence explosion, you have these like vastly superhuman things on your cluster, but you haven't done the industrial explosion yet. You don't have your robots yet. You haven't covered the desert in like robot factories yet. And that is the sort of crazy moment where, say the United States is ahead, the CCP is somewhat behind. There's actually an enormous incentive for first strike, right? Because if they can take out your data center, they know you're about to have just this commanding, decisive lead. They know if we can just take out this data center, then we can stop it. And they might get desperate. And So I think basically we're going to get into a position. It's actually, I think it's going to be pretty hard to defend early on. I think we're basically going to be in a position where we're protecting data centers with like the threat of nuclear retaliation. Which like maybe sounds kind of crazy though, And
is the inverse of the Eliezer? We got to attack the data centers and nuclear weapons.
Basically, nuclear deterrence for data centers. I mean, this is Berlin, in the like late 50s, early 60s. Both Eisenhower and Kennedy multiple times kind of made the threat of full-on nuclear war against the Soviets if they tried to encroach on West Berlin.
So yeah, I don't know if you were able to understand any of that. Clearly, both of these gentlemen are on Vyvanse or some bullshit and a lot of fucking coffee. They speak way faster. It's very hard to understand them, especially if they're talking, about a lot of different topics. So if I could like basically just sum it up really quickly, I would basically say that they're speaking about the weapons, like I mentioned earlier, weapons of mass destruction, bioweapons, drone swarms, things like that we can develop very quickly if we have AGI or human level artificial general intelligence. Whoever gets to that first has such a military advantage against every other country that the other countries are motivated to bomb their data centers. Are you sticking with me? Do you understand what I'm talking about? So if we are getting on the precipice, on the cusp of inventing AGI, China has every reason to go and bomb our data centers. Then we're fucked. It's that simple. So we may communicate soon, when we're getting close to that we will bomb them if they so much as touch our data centers. We will nuke them if they so much as touch our data centers. So once you have all that figured out, and we are at least 6 months ahead of China right now, but we have terrible fucking security right now. OpenAI, and I don't know about Google, but definitely OpenAI and Anthropic have terrible security. Anybody could literally just hack into a door, just walk right in, put a USB in some of their computers. It's not that great. And what's crazy is that they have actual knowledge, and have even posted blog posts about the fact that China and other state actors have literally hacked into OpenAI's databases. I've talked about this previously, but there was literally a time when they were under the distinct impression that every single development that they made was going straight to China. They were just like, oh, we're just giving all of these developments straight to China because of how much surveillance they were under. That's unbelievable. That's truly crazy. And the only way for them to not give all of this technology to straight to China is to literally militarize it. It only goes on military bases in skiffs, in like deep underground, fully secure, like rooms and things like very, very high level security. That's the only way we're going to be able to keep China out of getting our technology as soon as we make it. Because trust me, they can. Same goes for Russia, really, but Russia doesn't have quite the manufacturing or chip making ability to like fully match us or China with their AI. So anyway, moving on, this is the number one way to militarize AGI.
I think there's a lot you could go if you went from kind of current startup security. You just got to look through the window and you can look at the slides. To kind of like good private sector security, hedge funds. The way Google treats customer data or whatever. That'd be good right now. The issue is basically the CCP will also get more AGI built, and at some point, we're going to face kind of the full force of, the Ministry of State Security. And again, you're talking about smart people underrating espionage and the sort of insane capabilities of states. I mean, this stuff is wild, right? They can get there's papers about, you can find out the location of where you are on a video game map just from sounds, right? States can do a lot with electromagnetic emanations, at some point, you have to be working from a SCIF, your cluster needs to be air gapped and basically be a military base. It's you need to have, intense kind of security clearance procedures for employees. They have to be all their shit is monitored. They basically have security guards. It's, you can't use any kind of other dependencies. It's all got to be intensely vetted. All your hardware has to be intensely vetted.
So yeah, I think I may have summed up a little bit too much everything that he just said, but like I've said, like he said, we're in for a crazy ride here. It's entirely possible that, and this is honestly something that you can pretty much expect in the next couple of years, is that Taiwan is very soon going to be taken by China. Because TSMC is the largest and best semiconductor chip fabrication manufacturing company in the world. And that is what NVIDIA, the top graphics AI computer company, uses to make all of their chips, and they are based in Taiwan. So if China takes Taiwan, unless we somehow in the dead of night slip out a bunch of fabrication machines overseas, we're fucked. We are doubly, truly, and utterly fucked if they take Taiwan. And China knows this. And they are definitely going to take Taiwan to cut off our chip supply in the next couple of years. The other thing that they could do to completely hobble us is a cyber attack. And there are many people, in fact, a giant group of bankers who say that they believe a cyber attack from China is imminent before 2025. So this year. And it could be more than just financial institutions that are at risk. It could be literally our entire infrastructure, which is yet another reason, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, to get a bunker. Fill it with food, fill it with weapons, and have it available at all times in case of any kind of infrastructure emergency, in case of not being able to get hot water, in case of not being able to go to the store because the truckers can't ship supplies to the stores because their GPSs don't work, their credit card not being able to work. All of this stuff would no longer work if we had a full infrastructure cyber attack. So speaking of that and the quickly ramping up untenable lifestyle issues that we're soon to have, we got one last episode with Leopold Aschenbrenner.
I think the sort of world in which we're really neck and neck, we only have a 3-month lead, are incredibly dangerous, right? And we're in this feverish struggle where if they get ahead, they get to dominate, sort of maybe they'd get a decisive advantage. They're building clusters like crazy. They're willing to throw all caution to the wind. We have to keep up. There's some crazy new WMDs popping up. And then we're going to be in the situation where it's crazy new military technology, crazy new WMDs, deterrence and mutually assured instruction, keeps changing, every few weeks. And it's completely unstable, volatile situation. Is incredibly dangerous. So I think both from just the technologies are dangerous from the alignment point of view. I think it might be really important during the intelligence explosion to have this sort of 6-month wiggle room to be look, we're gonna dedicate more compute to alignment during this period because we have to get it right. We're feeling uneasy about how it's going. And so I think in some sense that one of the most important inputs to whether we will kind of destroy ourselves or whether we will get through this just incredibly crazy period is whether we have that buffer.
Why? So before we go more further object level in this, I think it's very much worth noting that almost nobody, at least nobody I talk to, thinks about the geopolitical implications of AI.
And there you have it, folks. Nobody in the AI sphere in San Francisco really be talking about this shit. You heard it first here. So speaking of Taiwan, guess what I saw on Reddit the other day? A Taiwanese individual talking about prepping for likely Chinese invasion in 2025 to 2027. Literally asking for investment and survival advice. Taiwanese people have been under the threat of attack for their whole lives. So clearly they must see some kind of change in the cards. They see something happening in the future if they're posting stuff like this online. Just a little tidbit in case you were curious. So here comes in my other reason why I believe to not trust the CIA. With all of these crazy, escalating, warlike situations that are happening in the next 2 years, where China is almost required to act first. Whoever has the first mover advantage has a huge advantage to win. That's just known. That's just how war works, usually. That was the whole reason for the Blitzkrieg and Hitler's ability to take over the majority of Europe very quickly, is because he knew he would have first mover advantage. It's the faster you move, the more effective you are. That's just always been true in war. So, the second that we get AI or AGI, as long as it's secure, as long as China doesn't have access to it, it would make a lot of sense for us to release a bioweapon. Or as George Bush might say, weapons of mass destruction. To take out the majority of the world's population, including our population, because then China would be at a great disadvantage starting out in any kind of situation. And it's kind of hard to find out where a bioweapon disease comes from, or like whether it was intentionally released or not, if the country has a history of accidentally releasing bioweapons, maybe even on ourselves. So, yeah. And many people hear me say such a bizarre, extreme claim that our government could potentially conspire to kill all of us at the same time and go, yeah, but why would they do that? They need us around, for the economy. Oh, wait, no, they don't need us for the economy because they'll have robots that can do all of the things that we currently do for them to make their empire work. And, well, but they just wouldn't have any reason to do that. Well, first of all, the CIA has long been controlled by powerful corporate interests since their beginning. See Whitney Webb for more details. So when you think about it like that, John D. Rockefeller, the Bilderberg Group, the Rothschilds, a lot of these old, giant, original industrial revolution type richy rich families, or robber barons as they used to be known, they had some interesting beliefs. They had interesting beliefs that are now called eugenics, the same thing that we hate Hitler for believing, which is that evolution is necessary, and as society, if we let people who are genetically defunct continue to live and reproduce, we are essentially adding a lot of stupid people to our world. And we're filling our cities and our land and our world up with people that prevent us from increasing in whatever kind of capability we'd be evolving towards, intelligence or sexiness or what have you. And I don't think that's correct. I don't think anybody in their right mind does believe that that's correct, because as humanity, our strength is our diversity. Our strength is our ability to have different perspectives for the same issue, for the same everything. Now, it does cause a lot of wars, but I think that if we use AI responsibly, if we do things properly, that we could potentially be able to solve those problems if we try. But those rich guys I mentioned, they didn't believe that the average human should continue to exist. They believed in greatly depopulating the world. And in fact, there's plenty of reason to believe that all of the billionaires that run these tech companies also believe that. This is a interview with Whitney Webb where Tim Dillon, the lovely Tim Dillon, goes into a little bit more detail about this kind of stuff.
A lot of these very powerful individuals think it's necessary for the only way for the U.S. to maintain military and economic hegemony is to implement this stuff farther than anyone else has done up to this point. It's the only way to have our AI be number one, because that's where they're saying the economy is going and it's the next industrial revolution. So to be the market leader and, for national security purposes, we have to be there first. This should really alarm a lot of Americans, because when it comes down to economic hegemony and military hegemony, these people do not care what regular Americans have to say about that. They're not going to put this to a vote. They're not going to ask people's opinion. You know, it's market leader at all costs. We invade other countries to prop up the petrodollar, like Iraq and stuff like that. So they're not going to ask, regular Americans' opinion if they want this implemented.
Well, here's the other question. What are they going to do with regular Americans? Because regular people that work at Walmart are not going to they're not going to merge with machines. So what's going to happen to all these people when we have AI doing all of these jobs? What is going to happen to the millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people that are not highly skilled, that do not have the resources, the money, the political clout? What is going to happen to them? I mean, is there any talk about what happens to the poor, the middle class, the people that are not, considered elite or essential? Like when Eric Schmidt or whoever goes, most work in the future is going to be done with AI. What do we do with all the other human beings?
We flush them down the toilet. Or down the black hole. Yeah, that's better.
Every time that a group of humans in history has lost their bargaining power, lost their ability to defend themselves, guess what? They were dominated or exterminated. The second they have AGI and we don't,
game over.
Friends, that is exactly what our fate will be.
$1,000 a year because everything's automated. Yep. Everything's done by the government. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to have to find something. Right. You're going to have to find a purpose. There's got to be a thing that whether it's art or writing or whatever it is, you better find something or you're going to go crazy. Yeah. And so then there's going to be a percentage of our population that's active. Mm-hmm. They're going to be working out, and there's going to be a bunch of us that just fuck off and drink beer and play Call of Duty.
Just sit down.
Yeah. And just get hammered and fucking order pizza and never have to do anything. Live in a nice place. You don't have to worry about money ever. Yeah. You could always buy like a good laptop and you get together with your buddies and you all play games, but you better have something. Go bowling. You better have something. You better have something you like to do.
Yeah.
Because
that's where it's going, though.
But wouldn't that be better than work? Because for most people, there's a great satisfaction working and accomplishing a hard day's work, and you get your paycheck and you feel like you've accomplished something. But wouldn't it be better if you just all of your needs were met?
Yeah.
And we put an emphasis in our culture on creating and doing things that interest you, and whether it's competition or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But this will be financed essentially by this ability that you just get free money because robots control everything.
They
There's
have plenty
no
of
more
money.
jobs.
There's no more jobs. I mean, they don't have to pay a salary to these robots, only repair costs.
Exactly.
And management costs, obviously. So, yeah, it would be great.
And the $200,000 that everybody gets, they're getting it anyway because they were going to buy stuff from them.
Exactly.
It would be a wild change and shift in how human beings interacted. And if there was a way for us to channel that in a positive manner, it could ultimately be beneficial. And we could be looking back on these days where people had to work at Wendy's and go, what the fuck was that about?
Yeah. Well, most people are working in jobs that are they're not passionate about these jobs.
Right.
And it's evident in their work, their effort and their
sure.
and their work ethics.
Well, it's also
Joe is such an optimist, and by optimist I mean incredibly fucking naive. And that is just one example of it. In this next clip with the Honorable Alex Jones, I think we'll demonstrate that a little bit better. And just a disclaimer, I don't listen to Alex Jones or his show or at all, but Tim Dillon was in this episode and he had the best perspective of this episode. So check this out.
Please, no, one at a time. At one point in time, there was they had Morse code, right?
Yes.
They went from Morse code to you being able to send me a FaceTime video.
Understood.
Well, these things happen.
Hey, Joe,
This
we're
is
not
just
against
part of being
technology.
humans.
We're not against technology.
But okay,
May
I
please say
understand that you're
something?
not against technology, but what I'm saying is if you follow technological innovation, it becomes better and better and more invasive.
We
And
need to
as-
design it where it doesn't make us obsolete. Humans take control of their environment. We build our environment. The globalists have decided to have a post-human future where humans
This
are no
is where
longer
you-
relevant.
This is where you lose me.
I can show you their damn quotes.
But
He's
getting me because
I just gave you an article. I just gave you an
He's
article
using you,
where they
he's
said
getting
it.
me. Because I think he's right. I think the only reason we're still around is because they haven't figured out how to get robots good enough to get rid of all of it. If they had the right robots, there would be no Walmarts to
Exactly.
get rid of everybody. You don't think that?
If they were the right robots,
The
they'd
right
get rid of
AI,
everything.
Making us
yeah.
obsolete. They're making
I
us
don't
obsolete.
mind.
Get rid of the
If I
danger,
need
danger,
a fucking cooler, I like to go to Walmart. Is that okay?
But once you have a robot, you won't want to go to Walmart.
Why?
Because it's dirty, it's filthy. Everyone's got COVID.
I listen to
Yeah, that's why they're
music, I
doing the
get in
COVID
my
is the post-human.
electric
You're not
car.
essential under COVID. They
I'm not essential.
They want to train you. Okay, listen. Look how calculators were great. No one knows how to do math now. Look how phones are great. No one knows their numbers anymore. All the statistics show that the science and technology is making us dumb. And that's why they wrote the big article, the co-owner of Sun Microsystems in 2000, Bill Joy wrote, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. And he explains he went to a top billionaire tech conference and they made the decision to not let humans sit around and play video games into the future, that they were just going to slowly phase us out and kill everybody.
Stop. They're not trying to kill
Okay,
everybody.
pull up Why the Future
But why-
Doesn't Need
but-
Us.
But listen, why do you think they're trying to
wouldn't
kill
they?
everybody?
But why wouldn't they? Can we reverse engineer the question?
Because we're called
I
useless
don't-
eaters.
I don't think they're trying to.
Very chaotic. But the real question is that everyone should be asking is why wouldn't they? What reason do the elites in power have to not kill us? How does it benefit them to keep us around?
Doesn't.
Pay us to drink beer and
They're not
play
gonna
Call of
milk
Duty.
us. They're just gonna kill us. They've already been milking us for how many centuries? They're just gonna kill us in the game, get their stock, and go.
That is a ding, 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 winner, winner. Yeah.
Battleship. Let's go.
So we just watched this movie called Atlas, which is on Netflix. I don't normally watch random Netflix sci-fi movies, but it looked pretty high budget, so I watched it. It has Jennifer Lopez. I almost said Jennifer Lawrence, but no, Jennifer Lopez, believe it or not. And very overdramatic, it was mediocre acting. And you'll get to see here. Here's a clip from it. where this AI robot that Atlas, the main character played by Jennifer Lopez, who she grew up with, who became sentient, and it's always about sentience for whatever reason in these things, which, you know, who knows. But he turned and he tried to kill all of humanity, and he explains why. And I feel like this sentiment is expressed throughout so many different movies and works of art. I feel like people should be paying more attention to the likelihood of this or something similar to it actually happening. So check this shit.
If you love me, don't launch that ship.
I have spent years trying to come up with another way, but since humans continue to threaten every other species, as well as their home planet, it is only a matter of time before they destroy themselves. I cannot let that happen. Mother wanted to create a better future. I believe she made me to protect humanity. So I will purge the vast majority of the population, and then, from its ashes, the survivors will inherit a new birthright. One of peaceful coexistence with the world around them, guided by us.
Very dramatic. So my only solution to end this on a bit of a lighter note is we need to decentralize. And by decentralize, I mean, so if the CIA and China are the only ones with powers, that's two centralized, a double multipolar AI event. The multipolar aspect is what creates the race dynamics of who gets the top first. If we have a fully decentralized AI that everybody has access to, that kind of changes the game, doesn't it? Now, that's a very difficult problem to create. That's a very difficult thing to coordinate. But it's not impossible, and there are definitely many people on both sides, on our side and China's side, that could coordinate this stuff. So let's hear. This is Peter Diamandis's Moonshot YouTube channel, talking with the CEO or some executive and HTC about AI.
You know, I love how you think because it's how I think too. So we're on the same side. Let's talk about a little bit more about AI, in particular, decentralized, democratized AI versus sovereign or closed AI. Where do you think we're going? And given the near-term dangers, right? So I put AI into three categories. Today, it's amazingly useful. There's very little downside. It's incredible. I use it all the time, as do you, as does my family. Long-term, digital superintelligence, I think, is going to be one of the greatest gifts to humanity. It's the interim, 1 to 5, 1 to 8 year time frame where it's the dystopian use of AI by malevolent individuals that are most concerning. So how do you think about that? What would, if you had the ability to set policy to guide us through this period of time, what would you advise? What would you recommend?
So I think there's actually a lot of confusion in terms of, because of the terms that you were talking about, open source AI and decentralized AI and sovereign AI and so forth. And each one of these, there's multiple meanings. So let me kind of give you a quick summary so that we are kind of aligned on what we think we mean by them. When people talk about sovereign AI, what they're saying is every country has their own AI. Right? Every country, it'll be a US AI, a China AI, a Saudi Arabia AI, whatever. And each AI is based on your culture, your information, and your ethics and your culture. Right? And what that creates is actually the exact opposite of what the world needs. Because what that creates essentially is 200 countries that see each other as enemies because you're different than me. And the world has always been about an in-group and an out-group, us and if the AI is only trained on your perspective and it doesn't see other people's perspective, it will work for you. It will try to make the world better for you, but by doing so, probably make the world worse for everybody else. Right? So if we succeeded in creating 200 super AIs, the world is in trouble. The other thing is by dividing our resources across 200 countries, we will probably never get to super AI because we're going to run out of compute and we're going to run out of energy and we're going to run out of data. Everybody today, when I talk to a lot of researchers, they say, hey, it's hard to get data today. And, if I just had more compute, I could do so much more. And when, I understand why, if you look at Jensen Huang is the one that is like super pro sovereign AI, because of course he's going to sell 200 versions of his chips to every single country in the world and every single lab in the world. So it's good for his chips and good for his profit margins. But it's probably not the best thing we can do for society. Right. So I think that's one thing we can think about. The other thing is by combining our resources, we actually now, I'm sure you know about the scaling law, right? So essentially, the more compute you give some AI system, the more data you give some AI system, and the more parameters you give that AI system, it will become smarter. Right? It's loss function. Essentially, the error from what you would expect would go down, and it's been consistent across several dozen orders of magnitude across all of these areas. So, and we actually don't see a change in that trend, at least for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, you wouldn't have companies out there trying to raise create $10 billion or $100 billion infrastructure, because they know that having 100 billion infrastructure is better than the 10 billion, is better than the 1 billion. And so what that means is that if we, instead of having 200 versions of something, let's create one version, one giant resource where all of the compute for these type of capabilities are put in one place, all of the data of the world, let's put everybody's data together. Because the more data we have, the more complete view it will, the more likelihood it will take into the perspectives of other cultures, right? And I was, speaking in Qatar about a month ago, and the people in the Middle East said, all these AI systems, none of them take into our culture or our language. It's all trained on English. It's all trained on Western ideals. When I ask it things, it doesn't tell it from my perspective, and I don't like that, right? And so we need to have them, instead of them hoarding their data and saying, I only want to be trained on my data, they should put their data into a general pool. In fact, I don't know if you heard the saying from Friedrich Nietzsche. He said, you have to be a sea to take an input from an impure stream and still stay pure.
Guys, the only way out of this situation for all of us is to make sure that the CIA has complete oversight, which is a monumental task that is probably not going to be done in time, to create a viral, unstoppable, impossible to re-engineer, decentralized AI that takes into account democratically every single citizen of the world's perspective on life and reports directly to them, not through representative democracy, but direct democracy, and is able to engineer a better world for us without us having to rely on any particular company, institution, or sovereign organization. We have to work together to make this happen. But if you don't have any skills in AI or communication or communicating these ideas or diplomacy or any of these things like that, by all means, protect yourself and your family and enjoy these last couple of years that you have with relative normalcy. If you want to, take a vacation. Spend time with your parents, spend time with your kids, and buy food. We love you all, and we're very grateful and privileged to have an opportunity to speak our weird little shit at you for over an hour. And if you think that what we're saying makes any sense to you, please share this with people you know, because we don't have a very large platform online, but if you do, you could make a big difference by sharing this and even sending it directly to people who you think are aware enough and give enough of a fuck to be able to understand what we're saying. So, and as far as YouTube algorithm goes, liking, commenting, all that shit helps, and subscribing if you're not subscribed. So y'all can take care, and we'll see you again in episode 5.